the same lesson we have to say the French Revolution. Next paragraph, title, Direct Rules of France. Before that we see the Jacobin leader Robespierre, he became the in charge of the France, and because of his cruel as well as the strong punishment, the people disliked him, and even he was also guillotined. Later, a directed rules of France. A new constitution was introduced, appointed directory executive made up of 5 members. To safeguard the concentration of power, one executive but often clashed with the executive council paved the way for the military dictator Napoleon Bonaparte. So, after the lesson was, we were able to say, the lesson was concerned with the French Revolution, how the king was executed, why the king was executed, later how they became a republic. Next we have to see, did women have a revolution? So from the beginning we are seeing that women is not having a voting. They are not have the right to vote. Let us see what happened to the women. The question as well as the side topic is, did women have a revolution? Did women have a revolution? Now let us see what happened. The women were in the third estate. They were not given education. They were not given much proper position while compared to the first and second estate. Most of the third estate had to work for living. They were what kind of people? Laundress, soul flowers, fruits and vegetables at the market, and even they were employed as domestic servants in the houses of the prosperous people. Most of the women did not have access to education or job training. Only daughters of the noble, wealthy members of the third estate could study to a convent. So, the women started their political club. They were disappointed by the constitution because they were the passive citizens. They demanded the right to vote. They demanded the right to vote. Then, revolutionary government introduced some sort of laws to improve. They made schooling compulsory, the marriage registered, and the civil law. They trained for jobs also. At least in 1946, women in France got the right to vote. Again, did women have a revolution? The women were not given much importance in the France as the first estate, second estate. The first estate, second estate has given education and they are wealthy. The third estate only suffer. The third estate, women suffer so much. They were not given education. They have to cook food, they have to fetch water, they have to queue in for bread, and they have to look for the children also. So what happened? Now the women started their political demand. What was the demand? They demanded the right to vote, to be formed to the assembly and to hold political office. So for that purpose, the revolutionary government introduced some laws to improve. Schooling made compulsory and marriage was registered under a civil law. They trained the job. Divorce was made legal and could be applied for the women and men. Women could now train for job. So later they got the right to vote in 1946. Here they have given some picture. In the picture they have Olympia de Gaulle. He was a woman. That woman has made much effort for getting the vote. She also started one club, and because of her only declarations of the right of the men. Next we have to see abolition of slavery. Abolition of slavery. Most revolutionary reforms of Jacobin made the most important reform of Jacobin is the abolition of slavery. Slave trade between Europe, Africa, and America was going on because the French merchant sailed from boats of Nandies to the African coast, where they bought slaves from local chieftains. Then what happened? They were the other people. The government did not bother about them because they are feared because of the business was maybe very wealthy for the slave trade business. But this National Assembly put an end to that, and then later the Negroes, the people also. After that only Napoleon also he did not abolish slavery, he improved the slavery also. Later the Negroes as well as the pursued their economic interest, and the people, they were the owners understood their freedom as included the right thing, and then lastly it was abolished in the French colonies in 1848. Again I will say this is the introduction of the slavery. Most revolutionary reforms of Jacobi, abolition of slavery. Slave trade between Europe, Africa and America. These slaves they were packed tightly into ships for the month-long voyage across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. The exploitations was made possible to meet the growing demand in Europe, particularly sugar, coffee and indigo. Port cities like Bordeaux, it is a coastal area, owned their economic prosperity. The National Assembly debate about the men should be extended to all French subjects, including the businessmen whose income depended on the slave trade. At last, the convention in 1794, they legislated to free all slaves. The revolution of everyday life. The last one. This French Revolution has made lot of improvement and lot of changes in the lifestyle of the men. Then France saw many changes in the life of men, children and life. In 1789, the abolition of censorship was very important one in the French Revolution. Before that, the whole region, all written material and cultural activities, books, newspaper, plays could be published or performed only after they had been approved by the censors of the king. It was happened so that any things with regard to the revolution or the people, it should not come outside. Everything was dumped by the king. Later, the declarations of the rights of man, they abolished the censorship. So what happened? Because of that censorship, abolition of censorship, the people were able to have a freedom of press, freedom of speech also. Freedom of press and then freedom of speech also. Then they are discuss the events and changes take place. Freedom of the press meant opposing views. So they are grasped the writers also, they have also given in their ideas of liberty and justice. Now people able to understand what is happening because of the writing. Then the last one, conclusion, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself as the Emperor of France and conquered the neighboring European countries. He was considered as a modernizer of Europe. He introduced many reforms such as the protection of private property, uniform system and measures provided by the decimal system. Initially, Napoleon is a liberator, and anyhow he was defeated in Waterloo. Many of them revolutionary ideas, liberty, modern days of Europe had an impact on the people. So the ideas of liberty, of democratic rights were the most important of the French Revolution. So here, even two examples, even our Tipu Sultan and Rajaram Mohan Rai also, they have responded to the ideas coming from the revolutionary France. Again, I will recall from the beginning one time, because these two videos of the French Revolution, because the society was divided into three. France, the king wanted to increase the taxes. For that, he had assembled the three assembly. In the three assembly, what happened? The third assembly did not like it. Then the writers and their philosophers. Then, here in the outbreak of the revolution, here in the third assembly, standing in the tennis court, and they formed the National Assembly. In the National Assembly, they have made one election. In that election, the people were elected.